We'll record in the cloud. And we are recording. Today is the 28th of April, 2022. This is Jim Carney. This is an information a session rather, with alumnus Josmar Taveras, as a supplement to the internship capstone class, as well as open to other MCS and journalism and FTS students. So good evening, everybody. This session is being recorded for folks to be able to listen to later, to refer to, and it is available as an extra credit assignment for folks in my class. So if you're listening to this as well, just contact me about that. So one of the things that is really, there they are, okay.
Hey,
No.
oh, that guy.
One of the things that I really like to do and I enjoy doing is bringing alumni back to talk about their path to where they've gotten to so far from Lehman. And I used to do it when I was with BronxNet, and one of the most gratifying parts of my job, and I think both Professor O'Hanlon and Professor Scheinheit could probably attest to this, is to see people actually become successful in what we're trying to teach them in classes. So these sessions are really gratifying for me, and we do lose track of people. Excuse me, I got a new puppy. He's trying to eat my sweater. And I'm pleased that Josmar is back with us today, because he was such a fixture both through the BronxNet years, and I'll let him talk a little bit about his history. But you interned at BronxNet too, right? Were you a producer there as well?
I did. I'm trying to think back if I actually had a class with Marissa at the time and used the BronxNet space.
Okay.
But we have helped. I have helped out in BronxNet.
Okay. But anyhow, class of 20, and I screwed this up in the announcement, but it's class of 2014, is that right? 2012?
I'm mistaken, 2011, I think. Probably a while back. Yeah, 2011, I think.
It is that? Okay.
Yeah.
Then I have that screwed up too. I went through your CUNY first, and I tried to look and see when the actual degree was awarded. But why don't you go a little bit into your background, where you're from, and why you came to Lehman originally, and what your goals were when you started coming to Lehman, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually I graduated from BMCC with my business administration degree. I originally started college to be a programmer, and pivoted to business because I felt it was more broad range at the time. So when I was in BMCC, I took a photography class 101, and it's kind of rekindled what I've always been doing before that, because I used to freelance a little bit on video. So once I got to Lehman College, I was majoring originally in in business marketing. And while I was there, I got exposed to the Multimedia Center and what they do there, and decided to take mass communication and broadcast journalism as a second major. And then the rest is history, pretty much, and continue that path at Lehman.
What did you see the opportunities in media to support your original goals in business, or was it the other way around? Was it that you fell in love with the media aspect of it and your business helped, or which came first?
I want to say it was, so when I was doing marketing, I felt like marketing completely fit the avenue of like video and production in a way where, you can, it goes hand in hand. So you can apply that almost anywhere, right? So that I just kind of saw that relation and just figured it would work out best to just marry those two.
Okay. So you had, did you double major? You double majored?
I double majored, yeah.
How hard was that?
It wasn't too bad. I actually hung out a lot on the campus and met a lot of people in the process. But it takes a little bit of juggling and dedication. But got it done. All the professors and everybody, they were super supportive, and I mean, I was open to it, so I made it happen.
Mhm. What kinds of well, the program was a little bit different. You were a mass comm major,
Mass comm, yeah,
okay,
broadcast journalism.
which was the old major.
Yep.
Um, what kind of either extracurricular or associated projects did you work on at Lehman, the Multimedia Center, or that sort of thing? You said you
So,
took the production class.
yeah, so I did a few things, if I can remember correctly, here. I I think it was with O'Hannon. I think I took a class with I think we were like doing the newspaper there. I had to do interviews, I had to go out and get, content. So,
Mhm.
if I had a story, I would go to wherever that story led me, pictures, videos, write the article, whatever it took to get that story up
And the
on the
Bronx
page.
Journal, was it for the Bronx
Bronx
Journal?
Journal, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And that was a lot of fun, a lot of experience. And then I did a few work studies. I was in, let me see, I think I wrote this down somewhere here. I did, what was it? It was like audio production, I think it was. I did some, let me pull this up. I feel like I have this.
That's okay. I mean, a lot of the courses are the same. Some of them are different now.
Yeah.
We're
So,
dealing.
yeah, for the most part, I mean, I did a lot of work study work with related to production, video, audio, and then towards the end of all of those work studies and the multimedia, I also did the Best of the Bronx, which was kind of like my last thing at Lehman, which was kind of the big hurrah, the big project, which I loved.
The Emmy winning project.
The Emmy winning project. That was awesome. That's something I put on my resume. So
Definitely should. We'll talk a little about that.
yeah, we'll get there.
Resumes. Is my audio clearer now, Tom? It's better?
Yeah, it sounds better, Jim. Thank you.
Okay, I switched microphones. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I think the point here is that you actually took it upon yourself to do additional other materials other than stuff that were part of the classes to expand your experience. Was that important to your development?
100%. Yeah, actually, I developed a relationship with Brendan, and I feel like through him and the multimedia center and just getting to know people, I learned more of what they do and what just like what other people are doing, and that kind of like captured my interest. And I feel like that's just like throwing the net out there and just seeing what you want to like, what catches your interest, right?
Mhm.
And then just kind of follow that path.
Okay. And how did you get to your first? Well, were you hired by the Media Center as a work study?
Yeah, I was at one point. Yeah.
Okay. And what got you to that next step off the campus in terms of media as a professional media person? What was your first gig?
After Lehman?
Yeah.
So my first gig was actually after Lehman. I was freelancing for a little while.
Mhm.
And that's kind of like, I guess, to show that sometimes you don't get the perfect job right after, or what you're looking for. So I was freelancing at the time, getting to know people, networking, and then I started working at Octagon, which was a sports marketing company.
Mhm.
So I was pretty much doing editing there. I was video editing they had like, I don't know, celebrities that we did like their social media edits for, or picture editing. We did retail editing as well for like all the videos that you see on retail stores, and then sponsored stuff and advertising, things like that. And then
What kind of freelance gigs were you doing?
freelance, I mean, I've done weddings, I've done baby showers at minimum. I've done music videos. I've also spoke to a few hotels, and got a relationship with the media event planner there.
Mhm.
And whenever they had like New Year's events or anything that required or requested videos, I was pretty much there for that. So that was like a good like side hustle gig, and got me kind of got my feet wet. And
I think people look at that and they kind of figure, well, that's not real video. When in fact, that's where the bulk of production in America is really done on that level. And I think the technology has made it such that it used to be that wedding videos were done with little VHS camcorders and, a photographer doing it on the side, but that's a real industry now.
100%.
That, and was that important in helping you get the experience and the hands-on?
100%. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's a big portion of it, right? That's part of what you learn in college, and then also after college or through college. Just freelancing and getting your feet wet, like I said, gets you to understand how to work with people, the relationship between that, understanding the gear, what's needed for X, Y, and Z when you hit these situations or issues that you have to solve for and plan for, right? So it all comes together at the end. But at the same, I think ultimately is really, it falls on experience. You want to get as much experience as you can. And going to that point, I actually did a few internships at Lehman, excuse me. And that also helped. I actually started doing an internship with Sony for NAB. I did some Sony marketing internships, which was super helpful as well.
Were you on that trip that I went to NAB?
I'm not sure. It was
in Vegas.
It was a few of us, and I did fly out there.
Okay.
And we were stationed at their booth and everything. That was cool.
Right. How did you make that initial contact at Octagon for the sports?
Yeah, actually, that position, it was through a networking, a friend, a person that I knew that went to Lehman. And this person was actually a producer there. So just in conversation, reaching out, she liked the way I worked. So we just had that connection. She asked if I was interested, and I definitely jumped on that. And that's why I kind of emphasize a lot on networking is important. And that's what I feel like college is all about, networking and internships, right? Getting the experience and getting to know the people, because you never know who's going to be what or go where.
Right. Okay. So, and you said you were doing, what kind of editing were you doing at the sports marketing place?
So I was mainly editing social videos and marketing videos. I say advertising videos pretty much for retail stores.
Mm-hmm. And these were point of purchase videos and stuff like that?
For the most part.
You would see them like on the floor at Dick's Sporting Goods or something like that?
For the most part, yeah.
Okay. Again, that's an enormous part of the industry that there's a lot of money to be made. Even as a, for example, an old friend of mine started doing that on the side. He had a union job as a camera person and started doing that on the side. And eventually that little gig he had on the side turned into doing all of the non-broadcast at the US Open.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Tennis out you think non-broadcast, well, what's that? If you've ever been in a tennis tournament, that place is pure video wall to wall. There's video everywhere.
Yep, I've shot there.
Clients and high expensive and high-end stuff. He did very well with that gig. And so it's not everything that is MTV. Well, I say MTV for my generation, but not everything is TMZ and and now it's social media. There's a lot of opportunity there. So how did you evolve from that first gig at Octagon, and what did you do?
So from Octagon, I actually was searching online for just other opportunities. I found USA Today on Mandy.com, which is just one of many websites to find freelancing gigs and just job postings. And I tried out. I actually when I landed USA Today, it was a contract work for about 3 months. And almost a slight competition, which was interesting. There was one position that needed to be filled, but they had 3 editors brought in, including me, right? So 3 editors, and we had to pretty much show and prove. So I think me being, I pretty much took the lead in certain situations and being curious and asking questions and just showing how interested I am and getting the work done and working with everybody else. I think that showed like the initiative and the interest of me getting that position. I think that's what landed me the position, and here I am with USA
Showing
Today.
initiative. Why don't you, for folks, I mean, I'm of a generation that think of USA Today as the newspaper. That, you know, if you stay in hotels, they used to leave it at the front door for free if you stay in the hotels. But there is a real major corporation behind USA Today. And so talk a little bit about what USA Today is, what it was, and what the company you're working for now is.
Yeah, 100%. So they still do that. They still have newspapers in the airports and hotels, which to my surprise is still happening. Newspapers still out there. So yeah, so our umbrella company is Gannet. They own a ton of local newspapers all throughout the United States. USA Today being their national newspaper. They originally started as a newspaper company and slowly progressed at some point to video or digital. And now every article that we put out is accompanied with a video. And then, yeah, from there on, they're continuing the drive to push for digital. So now we're getting into social and you know, like sponsored content, anything that can put, you know, eyes on videos pretty much.
Mm-hmm. They're like sidebar pieces for the newspaper. That's what we used to call them in the newspaper business, sidebars, which were physically a article along the side that, you know, to read more about this, like if it's a story about a scientific breakthrough, you would have a little profile in a sidebar about the scientist or something like that. Now the sidebars are video pieces.
Exactly. It's like almost reversed, right? So you have the video with the full piece, and then you have the article to fill in the gaps technically, or just to get more of the story.
Right, which is an inverse, right? It's because USA Today is to use a certain type of term. It used to be called a broadsheet. Now it's more like a tabloid. A broadsheet being like a New York Times with long articles and in depth and everything. And tabloids are more like the New York Post, which are shorter, punchy. And what the Post tries to do is, I think, what you guys are trying to do now, and inverting that and drive people to the digital content based on what's in the newspaper, because you can get more detail in the digital, which is the inverse of the way it used to be.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. So and everyone in the media industry is saying, well, newspapers are dead, newspapers are dead. And I think USA Today and Gannet, it's Gannet, not Gannet, Gannet.
Depends who you ask.
Yes, it's two N's, right? G-A-N-E-T. Okay. So for folks that are interested, it's one of the major still newspaper publishers in the United States, one of the few remaining. And they have a lot of there's a Westchester paper, I know that.
Yep.
Journal News. And they have a major online presence in social media at the local level as well. So you're at the national mothership, so to speak, right?
Yeah. So what's interesting now is that, so I started at USA Today as a assistant video producer, and then social video producer for sports, and then a video producer. And then from there, I jumped over to where I am now, which is a visual and technical operations manager. So now I took the step up or out of sports, and now I am with technically Gannet in USA Today.
Mm-hmm.
So anything video production related in Gannet, I kind of help with the workflow, production, like research and development pretty much. So like if somebody calls in, some newspaper or some other department calls in for, hey, we have this shoot, or we have this presidential election happening, et cetera, we want to do X, Y, and Z. It's my job to find the best way to get that done. So sometimes we do live streams, we do podcasts, like it could be a range of things. So I have to know and understand the tools that's out there to kind of make those things work.
I want to get into the multimedia in a minute, because that's crucial, but you do have production facilities, right?
We do. We have the one here in New York where I work out of. We have one in DC. We have one in LA. Those are the main ones. Atlanta is another one. And then we have some smaller ones all throughout.
Mm-hmm. And they're multimedia, right? They
Yep.
So they're not TV production facilities, are they?
Correct. They're not.
And do you do, are you doing any streaming? This is out of ignorance,
No.
because a lot of the companies, the major corporations, like for example, Professor O'Hanlon's company, which is, it used to be the CBS radio network, is now going big time into streaming. And even doing, and I found this interesting, another classmate of yours, maybe from a different time period, Curlew Burton, came and spoke, but he was working at that time when he spoke with us, he was working for Audacity, not Audacity, that's the editing program, Audition, and
Adobe Audition, or what is it, editing? Premiere?
no, it's the company. It's the old Tom. What's CBS Radio Network? If you're still there listening, Tom. But anyhow, they gave the CBS Radio Network a new name, and they've expanded out into streaming facilities that are doing sportsbook 24/7 sports talk radio on the web,
Nice.
which is a kind of an unusual adaptation. So, is streaming becoming a part of what you guys are doing? It
For sure. By the way, actually, I know Curlew, so we actually worked together a few times before.
okay?
But yeah, so streaming is a big part to, we have some events that we do live streaming. It could be within our studios or out on the field. So let's say there's a protest out in the streets. We have backpacks that we can connect our cameras and everything. We can grab some interviews out live. And we'll have somebody back in the studio or at home now because, you know, everybody's remote, and just switching and managing those feeds. And that's like a super leg up. I mean, everybody's streaming now, like you said, and you want to be the
Sorry, that's my dog.
I thought the dog was here for a second.
And it's Odyssey. Thank you, Professor Shiner.
The audio recording
Company is Odyssey now. But you would not think that like the CBS radio network, you think of like News Radio 880 and Round the Clock News, and now they're doing sports talk, but not just sports talk, but specifically sports talk.
Wow.
Which I find mind-boggling. And some AM stations, actually licensed AM stations, are getting into that, but they're building streaming. But he's since moved on to something else. But anyhow, so you mentioned podcasting too. So podcasting is an element of what you do?
Yeah, so I dabbed a bit in podcasting. We have some departments that do more of that, but we do have some edit suites that's just for podcasting in case we need to record anything or voice over anything. But we do have a good amount of podcasts in like iTunes or just on iTunes, podcast platforms. I can't think of one recently. There's one that I did like before COVID. It's been a while. Everybody now is on a hybrid kind of situation.
Right.
Interesting pivot.
Right. You said social media producer. What's a social media producer?
Social media producer. So that was pretty much editing for Facebook, Instagram at the time. I was hunting down videos to hit in the hopes of hitting viral. So that was my job pretty much. And since I was in sports, I was just following sports channels or pages and just kind of consuming that information and whatever I thought was kind of like eye candy or important that might click or resonate with the audience or with anything that we're doing article wise or story wise. I would grab that, give it a flip. Well, I would also have to ask for permission, but I would do that and give it a flip and you know, make it all look pretty and nice and graphics and everything. So
I'm glad to hear you say that as someone who includes ethics in
100%
in my classes and in copyright, honoring copyright and the intellectual integrity of writers and producers.
You'll be surprised. It still goes on with, especially with our photographers. There's people out there, especially because you're a big company, you're a big target, right? So people out there try to find any little thing that they can kind of like sue you for or anything. So you have to make sure that you're crediting everything and copyright everything. Just sources like that. So
you would find a sports piece and tie it to some USA Today content and package it and put it out there. Is that what you did?
Yeah, for as some portion of it was that. The other portion was to post to our social media platforms, so like our Instagram sports page. Occasionally, it would go over to USA Today, but USA Today also has, tech section, money, life, which is entertainment, so it's more like celebrity driven, and sports is just sports technically. So like they have all these little avenues, and USA Today is technically news, which is like the network side.
Mhm. Okay. Um, so how important is the multimedia element of it? I mean, because we still get some students who come in and say, I want to be like a videographer, or I just want to be an editor. How important is it to be a multitasker?
It is very important, especially this day and age where you're expected to do it all. I mean, if you shoot, you have to understand how audio is put together, edited, or at least some concept of it. You have to understand how to edit video, right? You can't put yourself in a box. I feel like you're doing a disservice. You really want to have your understanding of your feet or your toes in these little different ponds, and just like understand how everything works or goes together. If not, then you're going to become obsolete in a sense. I mean, it sounds harsh, but it's the reality of like our generation. You just have to be a multitasker and understand the tools. Like it's just how it works. And then even so, like if you are, for example, if you are in just like this one box and I just want to be a shooter or an editor, and these things go obsolete and they're not as relevant as what it is today, then that company is already looking for that replacement, for that person that needs to know the next best thing. So you got to stay ahead of the curve.
And also artistically, I found like I was trained as an editor. And then I did documentaries later, but my documentaries were improved and made much, much better when I understood what I was going to need in the edit room.
100%. That's a good point. Yep. There was a lot of situations where when you're shooting, you understand the workflow. So, and then you kind of like correct or make these changes to help that process to streamline it. Right. And that's a really good point, because that happens to me a lot on the field or when I'm doing my job.
Yeah. Or you, and I was going to say, what editing, I'm sorry, what word processing program do you use to write scripts, which is a trick question, because a good video producer, right, everything is between their ears.
Yeah, for the most part.
and we don't write anything down unless we just jot notes, because the key word I think you said there that's important is workflow. That unless you understand what the final product is supposed to look like and the support materials for that final product is supposed to look like, and you work backwards from there, it's almost impossible to get a good product, because you'll get to that edit. There's nothing worse than getting into an edit room and seeing that you don't have that visual.
Yeah.
You don't have that bridge, that the talent. You don't have the talent anymore to say this one sentence or even these one or two words that get you from point A to C, because B is missing.
Yeah, 100%.
Workflow is just so important. And that's why and the reason I'm saying this is for the production people to understand, you need to know the entire process and the entire workflow. And you never know where you're going to end up. I'm sure that when you were at Lehman, if somebody told you you were going to be working at the corporate headquarters of a newspaper chain.
Nah, yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely there was a lot of moments in Lehman where I understood that workflow was important, or at least I realized it in the process, right? Because you don't want to get caught with your pants down technically, where you're providing the footage to an editor. And just assume that you're not editing, let's say, and you're just shooting, you're on the field and you don't have time to kind of edit, but you are working with this organization or a team. So like now, if I take this footage and I'm sending it off to whoever needs to edit, and then they come back to me saying, oh, I need X, Y, and Z, or this is not, or et cetera, or, something's off, audio or something. You have to understand the story and the components that's connected to all of that. Like it's just gonna make your life easier in the long run. It makes you that much valuable again. So yeah.
So what is a typical day for you like?
Typical day for me is interesting now because it's slightly different because of COVID. So for the most part, in person, before COVID, it was more like I would be by my desk. I would, be scheduling studio sessions with any department that's like reaching out for any hits, reporters wanting to do stand-ups. We would do recording VODs, which is video on demand, just stand-ups recording, 2 shots, send that off to editors. They'll put that together with either slideshow or videos, which we're trying to do more videos than slideshows. That's one portion. The other portion is product reviews. With our tech side, we would get new technology or new equipment coming in, like little robots or little gadgets or the new iPhone, and we'll do like the test or the walkthrough or the drop test or these things. Those are fun to do. So that's one thing. We work with the reporters. So I work with the reporters. I work with the marketing team. I work with the sports producers when they come in. And my job is pretty much when they come in, my studio is pretty much like my home. So I have to understand it in and out. Lighting, the TriCaster for switching if I need to switch, if I need to live stream, audio, miking, any of that. If they want to shoot from the top down or they want to get a certain lighting for a product or something, that's all encompassing what I do in the studio, right? And then pivoting from that, like because of COVID and the hybrid workflow, we had to find ways to do something similar online, which was interesting, and it had to happen fast. We got it done. We have a few softwares that helps us in the production value type of workflow, and it helps, but also kind of interesting because now my job isn't too much of a hands-on thing. It's more just like, here are the workflows, and I kind of check these boxes and make sure everything is good. And then from there on, I just kind of do the switching and the behind the scenes stuff, but you don't really see me working. So it's kind of different, but you have to know a little bit of everything, so to work in the studio and what I do.
What about people management? Because that it sounds like you're getting to that point now. We used to call that putting the tie on, meaning that you put on the tie because you're the guy in charge now.
Yeah.
Right. It sounds like you're at the point now where you're actually sort of putting the tie on. And how is that working for you? Are you finding that rewarding or?
I love it because I'm a people person. I like working with people. I love working with creatives, and that's also ties back to the Lehman days. And that's how I kind of got engaged and learned with all the other processes in the workflow. But yeah, I love working with people, and I feel like because of that and all the people that I work with creates this environment where my day is never the same. It's always different, and that keeps it fun for me and just keeps it new and fresh. But you learn quick too, freelancing, working with people in general, or even in this field in general, you work with people for the most part, small or big. And it's important to understand like how to work with people to different levels of levels of that.
Okay. You had some visuals you had mentioned you wanted to share.
Yeah, I just had some Instagram posts that I put together, just kind of.
Okay. Let me just make you a
Sure.
co-host so you can share. So hang on for a second here. Participants. Co-host. And you now should be able to accept, and you are co-host so you can share.
Awesome. Okay. So let's see here. What do we got? Boop. There we go. All right. Can you all see that?
Yes.
All right. So these are going to be a compilation of just like Instagram posts. Literally the top left one is my first gig at USA Today. But these are pretty much different gigs that I've done. So working in the studio, working on the field for the Olympics, interviewing kids during like bring your kids to work day, things like that, working with celebrities coming in, rappers or you know, movie artists, and just, you know, being professional, but also talking to these people, super fun. And then we actually just moved locations from, we were, well, just a block away, but we moved to a different building and we had to build our studio, and I was pretty much managing that process. And that's the picture you see on the bottom middle there. That's super fun. And I'm gonna just continue kind of going down this list here. It's just kind of like compilation of different pictures, me working in the field, and the studio, super fun. I mean, I love it. I'm a techie, so I love like getting my hands into all these things and figuring things out as far as like cameras and audio and how to get things to work. Yeah, I've been to different award shows. It's just super fun. It's the working at USA Today gives you so much of that opportunity because of the broad or the different departments that they have, right? Like they just have tech, entertainment, like celebrity, like it's just, it gives you so much avenue. So like, if you just talk to people and show your interest here or there, wherever you want to go, you can find yourself in different places. The top left there, I found myself in the streets during COVID. I had to go down because somebody was doing some news casting and live broadcasting, and I had to bring some batteries and some equipment, and that was different. That was definitely different. They, you know, the company provided the masks and everything just to make sure we were safe, and we had our guidelines. But it's definitely interesting to work for a news company because you know, you're in the forefront for the most part, but it's fun.
USA Today is again, oh, John Bon Jovi. That's my generation. Okay.
Yeah, that was right after everything opened up after COVID, which is interesting. Right. Yeah.
USA Today is one of the few remaining general companies that has a not only multi-platform, but not genre, but multi-areas. As you said, they have sports, they have tech, they have lifestyles and entertainment, and they still have hard news. And there are very few entities like that anymore. It's kind of like the network, the television network, CBS, ABC, are still doing that. But even the cable networks don't do that anymore, like TBS. They're finding their own niche, doing more sports and filling the rest of the time with old movies, well, actually with tons and tons of commercials with little snippets of movies thrown in between. But USA Today is still, is legitimately still a multi-pronged information organization that does all of it. So that, I think, gives you an unusual opportunity. Whereas if you went to ESPN, you'd be doing sports.
Yeah.
If you went to any other specific types of areas, you'd be pigeonholed in one area. But you're getting exposed to all of that. So I think that's great.
That's awesome. Yeah, I completely love it because of that reason, right? Like I said, it keeps everything fresh, and I work with every department through all of that. And it's eye-opening. You know, I learned a lot in the process, and I've been there for 7 years now.
Wow, it's been that long. Okay.
Yeah, 7 years. Yeah.
Okay.
I think I'm approaching my 8th this year.
Congratulations. That's great.
Thank you.
I want to open it up for anybody that might have any questions about the business or the experience or that bridge. So if anybody has a question, you can just either raise your virtual hand or just chime in, or you can actually go into the chat if you want.
I do want to say that if anybody's interested, this website right here, you can find any job postings. By the way, if you guys are interested in kind of like snooping around, feel free. Yeah.
Okay. So questions. Who has a question? I don't see any right now. Okay. What about? I'm just curious. How much do you work with the local newspaper side of the business? Like, for example, I'm up in Westchester County, and we have the Journal News, and I know Journal News has a pretty significant social media presence. Do you work a lot with the individual newspaper branches, and how does that work, cooperating with them?
Not much. It's on pretty much like an event basis, where if there's something specific coming up, something kind of like above what they normally do, then they reach out to like us, and we kind of help and assist however we can, whether that's equipment, personnel, or just guidance as far as like you need X, Y, and Z to do this. And if they have the manpower to do it, then we just tell them like what's the workflow for that, and they'll handle it pretty much.
All right. So,
But our managers will reach out pretty much.
okay. So like if, for example, if there was a major golf tournament, a national golf tournament in Westchester County, the Journal News, you might work with them in coordinating some coverage for that. Okay.
Yep, especially if they need more hands or anything like that, they leverage the network that way.
Okay, we have a couple of questions. Rochelle has a couple. Is she, I guess it has to do with getting through college and getting the motivation to get through. Is there a time that you ever felt like overwhelmed and that it was hopeless and that you felt like you might end up working at McDonald's for the rest of your career? Or what kept you going? Let me put it that way. What kept you interested in your studies when you were in college, and what motivated you?
I almost want to say the people and my classmates. Like again, it's different for everybody, but I'm a people person. I've hung around the campus. I've been in the cafeteria. I've been just classmates and just random people that I just like associate just outside the door waiting for my next class. I feel like these interactions and just kind of me getting to know people, and then the teachers too. I feel like that kept me kind of grounded in a way where kind of like I wanted to be there, but I'm trying to think next level to see if there's something else that I can probably shed some light on it.
Well, okay. As a follow-up to that, she also asked the process of getting promoted and moving up.
Yeah,
That's something that you consciously track out, or is it something that naturally flows, or is it organic? How does that work?
So it could be a little bit of both. At first, it just kind of progressed naturally. And I feel like at a certain point, I had to understand where I was. I had to understand my worth and not settle for less in a sense, right? So I had an open communication with like my manager, expressing my interest honestly, and making sure that you are in a position where you can, be open, negotiate, and to make sure you're tracking your work and your achievements, and you can use that as leverage, right, as your experience. And you can, if you want to pivot from one position to, let's say, another company, that's gonna help in that transition. So I would say that.
And I want to compliment you on the photographs. First of all, they're composed really well and they're good pictures, but people underestimate the importance of documenting what you're doing. That if you're in the middle of doing something, and I am guilty of this, most of my documentary work from my early career is gone because I didn't take the time to get at what we would call in those days air checks, which are basically duplicate copies of the documentaries I worked on. So a lot of my original work is gone. When I went back to get it, they said, oh, they tore down that studio 2 years ago and it went out in a dumpster.
Oh man.
And
yeah,
I can't stress how important it is to take that selfie. Don't be afraid to do it with a celebrity or in the middle of a break, on a coffee break or something, on a shoot. Take that shot and make sure you're in the shot.
You're in the shot. Ask for permission too.
Ask for permission, yeah, because first of all, these are things that you can put in your own personal portfolio to promote yourself. When you do go for those other jobs, I'll say, hey, wait a minute, he worked with that other person. I say, well, what was that production you did with John Bon Jovi? And that sort of thing.
Yeah, I actually started something I started a few years ago. I started kind of cherry picking jobs or videos that I've done, and just kind of creating sizzle reels, or at least for a sizzle reel.
What's
So
a sizzle reel? What's a sizzle reel?
I can stay fresh. It's kind of like a video profile or resume for a video person or anybody in the creative world would need like a little video, a 1 minute video. It could be something simple that showcases your skills, right? That will give you that leg up, or that it show people will be more interested, or companies will be more interested in your style or your work.
It's doing for yourself what you're doing for clients.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And people don't take the time to do that. And I, like I said, throughout my career, I've been guilty of that. And I'll tell people about this documentary I worked on. I'll say, "Oh, can I see it?" And I'll say, "No." And they have to take my word for it, or I have an article, or I have, something like that. So that's really important. And I'm very pleased to see that you're documenting your career that way. And it's not just an ego thing to take that selfie. It's important to have it.
Yeah, I do it for both that and also for the fun of it. I like to consider my Instagram a documentary of my life. I like to say that I'm telling a story of my life. So when I get to a certain point in my life, I can look back and just kind of like remember these moments. It's like a photo album.
Okay. Daryl wants to know how you knew that what you're doing now is what you wanted to eventually do, because there's so many routes that you can take in a media career.
Yeah.
That how is it a conscious effort that you ended up where you are now, or was it again an organic process?
I think it was kind of organic for me. So taking a step back, when I was younger, I was that kid. And this is like way back. Family parties where we had VHS tapes. So I would record family gatherings. I would be the person taking pictures. So my mom was like, "Take the pictures, record this and that." So that was me. So I think I had early exposure to all of that. And then on the other side, my dad and I, we love watching movies. That's just how we kind of like hang out. And then we nitpick on like mistakes that we see in movies. So like these things kind of fed that interest. I think it just kind of naturally built into it. And then at some point, me and my brother, like, we play video games. We started taking video game footage that we played, that we recorded, and editing them like sizzle reels, technically, just making like a compilation video. And that was like our thing. And then just making goofy videos at home and just putting them together, stop and start motion. At that time, it was innocent. There wasn't any YouTube. And then YouTube came along, and that was a thing. But that was like an organic process, right? And then when I went to school, like I said, I was interested in programming because I wanted to make video games and stuff. And then I transitioned to business. I was always into photography, and I did photography in high school and college. And then when I went to Lehman, I saw the media center. So like, it's like kind of like the carrot at the end of the stick kind of thing. And I saw it and I gravitated towards it. And then the rest was history in a sense. I was freelancing when I was in high school and getting more exposure to that because that's kind of what I did growing up, and did on the side at home for fun. So organic for me.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Mandy.com early on in our conversation. What are some of the resources or things that you would recommend students do, whether it be like I'm always pushing centerforcommunication.org, which has these great events that they have all over the city for students. But are there any, I know Mandy.com is a really good one for jobs in the media industry.
Yeah.
And the entertainment industry. But where should people be looking online to promote themselves? And
yeah, I'm out of practice a little bit, but I'll tell you what I what I see and what I think. There are like Mandy and Story Hunters and other websites that you can kind of like post your sizzle reel or your experience, and people can reach out. That's one avenue. The other avenue is going to video events, and then networking. That's major and important. Anywhere where you can get exposure. It could be your social media, but you have to be consistent, right? And you have to love it. You can't just be doing it, just do it and then give up, and then you just have this half done thing that you did one time and then you're doing something else. And even if it is just one thing in one place, you can also replicate that somewhere else and continue that growth. Yeah. You just got to make content.
I have to unmute myself there. What about professional organizations? Do you belong to any professional organizations in the business, or?
I don't. I actually last year I started thinking about this before COVID, which is a good point. We actually helped out in a few news organization like gatherings that USA Today had, and then that kind of triggered like, why am I not doing that? This is pretty much networking at the next level, at a professional setting. So I am in the process of looking for more of these avenues and where I think I would fit in more as a niche, because I'm Hispanic. I want to look for more like people like me in a sense, right? That do what I do, as well as everything else, to get exposure in general. But I think exposure in those events is super important.
Yeah, one of the organizations that we're trying to bring back again is NAHJ, which we used to have a chapter at Lehman. That's National Association of Hispanic Journalists, which is a really good organization. But we're also relaunching membership into the SPJ, this is Society of Professional Journalists. But that's not just for journalists. I like to say that the skills you learn as a journalist are skills that you use rather in everything from advertising to marketing to public affairs and professional communication. So being associated with those journalism organizations are really important. I don't want to hold you too much longer. You've been gracious with your time, and I said I would try and keep us to an hour here. Professor Scheinheit, is there anything, Ian, is there anything you want to add? I see your hand up there. I just noticed. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Hi, everybody. This is a fantastic presentation. Thank you. And I got to go pretty quickly as well. But thank you so much. This is fantastic. My 3 quick questions, very quick, right? For recommendations for students, software. What is the editing software that you would recommend that they dive into? And is it one? Are there multiple ones, right, for different, podcasts versus video versus, so that's this one. 2, is there anybody that you particularly follow or read or consume to think about content creation? Like who's doing the best content right, that we can emulate and create content that can be, right, we want to go viral, for our jobs or whatever it is, right? What does that look like? And that's it. I'll end there. So thank you though.
No worries. Thank you. Edit for software. So for editing, I feel like if you learn one, you kind of understand the core value of everything else, of all the other softwares. It's just a matter of understanding the tool that each one offers. So I started out with Final Cut, but I also did Sony Vegas at one point. This was before Final Cut, and then so Sony Vegas, Final Cut, and Premiere. Currently, where I work, we were on Final Cut, and now we are on Premiere and the Adobe Suite, because of different. I mean, every company is different, but they utilize tools differently to work with their own team. But yeah, I mean, the more you know, the better, even if you're dabbing into it or at least understand it, because you never know if you pivot to a different company, what they're using, and then you have to start picking it up, right? Or relearning it. So it's important to know what's out there and what's popular. And then as far as who I look up to, who I watch, that's tricky. I consume a lot of media. I follow a lot of YouTubers. Casey Neistat might be one of them. He was somebody I was really following, that he was like super kind of punchy, modern, cool vlogger kind of vibe. And there are some other ones that escapes me, but they were more on the more creative video side. I think was Film Riot is one. Film Riot was a good one that I used to watch a lot back in the days, and they're still doing videos now. And they actually progressed from doing YouTube videos to doing now, like they own a production company. They're doing more studio movie related stuff, and it's so cool. So that's one of many. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
That's great. Thank you. I'm sorry I'm sniffling in people's ears here. It's my hay fever medication's wearing off. But I don't see any more questions in the chat, so I'm going to take this opportunity to say thank you. It is, as I said at the beginning, there's nothing more gratifying for me than to see someone who obviously is capable, be able to capitalize on their skills and the opportunities they're given, and actually make it work. And congratulations on being a new father.
Thank you.
For telling everybody who has a new baby at home.
Congratulations.
Thank
and
you. Thank you.
being able to, to make that American dream happen, and to also be creative in the process. So you can, go ahead.
I just want to say also, like, I want people to know out there that remember that all jobs are permanent. Don't get fixated on one position or one job. Don't be afraid to, to use it as a stepping stone to move on to a different position or career. I just want to put that out there, because a lot of people get stuck in this bubble or this box, right? And it's important, I feel, to know your worth and move, follow your heart to where you want to be.
Okay, well, I want to thank you so much. If anyone is interested in getting in contact with you, you can just contact me and I'll put you in touch, if that's okay.
Of course.
And I just want to say thanks, and go Lehman. And you're welcome back at any time to come visit now that things are opening up again.
I plan to.
And then the Multimedia Center is getting active again as well. So we'd love to see you back. Okay.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you. I appreciate
All
that.
right. Thank you, Josmar. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. And with that, I will end the recording session, and I will say good night to everybody.
All right. Good night. Pleasure, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.